Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Developer Waypoints. It's me, Peter Malahan, your co-host here. I'm a senior UX designer, and to my left...
I'm Nic Raboy, and I'm a lead developer evangelist.
And welcome to Waypoints. Thanks for coming out. We are in the middle of season 1 right now. We just started. And if you're wondering what is Waypoints, what are we doing here? Why are we talking live? Waypoints is a live coding series that we pick a topic and we progressively build something over a season of episodes. Season 1, we're doing JavaScript. Episode 1, Nick, do you want to maybe recap what we did in the first episode 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, actually, so let me bring it up. So just before even we get into the first episode, I just want to reiterate that the first episode, the code is on GitHub, and Peter can share that link for us, as well as the on-demand video for that as well. But let me go ahead and open up that project. If you've cloned the GitHub repository, it would be under Developer Waypoints. It would be under Season 1, and then it would be under Episode 1. So if I go ahead and I open that, let me fix this screen a little bit. So this is the code that we built in the first episode. So this is basically we made use of the displaying of an interactive map using the JavaScript SDK. So we used 3 components of the JavaScript SDK. We also added map objects to the map. So for example, we added markers, we added polylines, we added polygons, and we also calculated the distance. So if I wanted to see what we had built in this particular episode, I could open it in my web browser. And this is an example of what we accomplished in that first episode. So
it was a successful episode, Nick.
It was, yeah. It went really smooth, and I encourage you to definitely look at the project on GitHub, as well as look at the on-demand video if you haven't seen it already.
Mm-hmm. So if you are looking, if you want to watch the first episode, there is a link in chat right now. It's up on YouTube, and all other links that we'll be talking about or referencing is going to be underneath the stream. So if you scroll down, there's important links section that you can go through. And just a quick reminder, if you plan on participating today, if you want to walk step by step through building what we're doing today, you should go to developer.here.com. I'm throwing in a link into chat now. To sign up, it's free. You don't even need a credit card to log in. But you'll have to have an account to continue forward with us. So that's my spiel right there. So yes, we we are live right now. So anyone in chat, as we're walking through things and discussing topics, feel free to jump in and say anything and ask any questions, give suggestions, tell us that we're missing a semicolon, whatever it is. I'm keeping an eye on chat. Nick is going to be coding, and we'll all work together to make an awesome final product. There's also a couple of mods in chat. They're the ones with the little sword icon next to their name. And if there's anything that I miss or that we are not able to answer during the stream, they'll try to answer you at the time. We got Babsd is saying, are we going to be doing full screen maps today, Nick?
Yeah. Babsd actually helped in the previous episode of schooling me on some CSS. So we are definitely going to be making use of that in this episode as well.
Yes.
So it's good advice that he gave.
Yes, he loves full screen maps.
Oh, sorry. I'm sure you hear a dog in the background.
Okay, before we jump in, is there any shameless plugs that we're gonna do right here, Nick?
Yeah, is Michael Palermo in the chat right now? I think he's doing something with Lex, right?
Palermo's doing something with Lex?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe he wants to say it in the chat real quick, and then you can read it off for anyone who's watching.
Yeah, and also we're only about 5 seconds ahead, so chat, you're only 5 seconds behind, so we're pretty quick to see if you're trying to get our attention, we'll be able to see. Palermo says yes. He's doing something with
All right.
All right. Yeah, I think so. I don't know
Very
if it's
mysterious.
Yeah, I don't know if it's completely official. I mean, it's pretty much set up on the on our Twitch page right now. If you scroll down, you can see our calendar. Upcoming, we're gonna be talking a bit about Lex and AWS. I don't know if I have the. Let me double check to see if the calendar is up here. I think that's on the 12th of April, so it's a little bit further out, but I think they're going to be doing some. I think they're doing a webinar series on Lex. And J12Y, I think that's Jason's doing a webinar tomorrow, demonstrating HERE routing API with HERE XYZ, custom locations, and he's got a link there. So if you,
cool.
There's a shameless plug for Jason. Bandload says, are you using some framework for the project? In the project?
Not a framework. So we're still going to be using vanilla JavaScript for this, but we're going to be using a third-party library, so an open source library that's going to assist with what we accomplished today.
Okay. And what is that open source library?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be using LeafletJS. So this is a popular open source JavaScript library for maps. And kind of the gist of what we're trying to accomplish today is in the previous episode we used pure HERE for our interactive maps. This time around, what we're going to do is we're going to be using the HERE map tile API. So if I went to the documentation here, we have a map tile API, and we're going to be feeding these tiles into Leaflet. Leaflet is going to render and display them. And then we're going to be using map objects directly with Leaflet. So we're going to use Leaflet's markers, polylines, and polygons. And the reason why this is valuable is if you're coming from another map provider, or you're trying to use a kind of, I guess you can say software that's kind of usable for any kind of service, this is a good opportunity because HERE does offer a very competitive pricing model. With its, Peter said 250,000 requests. So
I don't think I said that, Nick, but
did you? All right,
no,
I'm making stuff up. I'm making stuff up then. So it's an easy opportunity for you to switch between map providers, and we definitely hope that you choose HERE in the end when you're using it.
Of course. Palermo's, his shameless plug is to check out his workshops at a GitHub link. I'm not going to read that off; it'll be too hard. But you can click that and follow that. All right, I think, Nick, it's about 11:10. Do you want to jump in?
We can get started. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So I do have my terminal up. I'm in the GitHub project that I pushed previously. I'm just going to copy the episode directory, and I'm just going to call it episode 2. So we're going to jump right into a new directory. I'm going to open it with code this time. In the last episode, I received some feedback regarding my syntax highlighter. So this time around, I'm using code, so it should be a little more attractive to look at, I guess you could say, right?
There you go. Everything's highlighted.
Yeah, everything's highlighted this time.
Makes it easier.
So what we're going to do is we're basically going to modify our example, and we're going to try to reproduce everything, but this time using Leaflet instead. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to add the Leaflet library, so the JavaScript library and CSS file. And the easiest way to do that is to go to download on Leaflet's homepage. And if you scroll down, there's 2 HTML tags that you can copy over. The first one being the CSS data. We can go ahead and copy that into the head on line 2. Oops. And then if we go back, we can copy LeafletJS, which is the JavaScript library. And I'll go ahead and paste that in. With those added, at least for this particular episode, we no longer need the HERE JavaScript SDK.
At all?
At all.
Wow.
Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the REST API for getting our map tiles. And we could Leaflet actually makes that very easy for us to consume. So we won't be using the JavaScript SDK for here in this particular example, even though that we're still focusing on JavaScript.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing the same thing we did last time, but just within Leaflet, right?
Correct. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to comment out our previous example. We're going to leave it there. We're going to strip away from it as we go along, and hopefully that keeps it easy to understand. So just like with how we initialize the here platform, we need to initialize a leaflet map, and we need to do that with the map tiles. So the first approach that we want to use is we want to go to our documentation here, and we're going to copy one of the URLs. So we go to the map tile API, which is part of the documentation, and what we can do is we can copy this URL. And I notice I didn't copy the app ID and app code part yet. We'll get there, but I just copied the base URL. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it into our code. I'm going to say constant. I'm going to call it tiles, and it's just going to be a string for now.
Okay, real quick, the past two links that we went to for downloading leaflets, JavaScript, and the documentation for MapTile are in chat right now.
Perfect.
If you need it. We got Bandloaded is saying here maps is live is like OpenStreetMaps, like open source.
Here it's not open source. The LeafletJS, so this rendering utility, the tool that's going to allow us to interact with our map tiles and add markers and things like that, that's open source.
Okay.
Does that answer the question maybe?
Would you call, is this a renderer, or is this just a full open source map library type of thing?
So I've been referring to it as a renderer. I think you could call it just an open source mapping library. There may be other more correct terminology for it, but I don't know.
Okay, we'll name it whatever.
Yeah.
It says on the page.
Yeah.
It's an open source
right here.
JavaScript library.
Yeah.
For mobile-friendly interactive
But
maps.
for Leaflet, you still need to provide it tiles. So whatever map provider that you're using, you still need to provide tiles for it.
Yes, and so I'm not sure if I'm saying your name wrong. Bandloaded. What we're trying to show is that you can use other services and other open source renderers with what we can offer with our maps.
Yeah, and it makes the transition easy if you're trying to convert from one of the competitors to here.
Yes. I hope
so
that answered your question.
All right. Anyways, let's just go ahead and interrupt me if there's more questions. That's perfectly acceptable.
No problem.
All right. So we copied over this URL. This URL, there's certain information regarding it. So if I scroll down here, it's in terms of constructing a request. There's certain aspects of this URL. So for example, we're using the base maps rather than the aerial view or similar. There's other information that we're adding to, so I'll just walk through the code. We're using a normal daytime map instead of like a night mode map. The zoom in this case is 13. We have the latitude and longitude, and then we have size information. So what should the size of the map tiles be? And we're going to change this as we go along and make it more dynamic to how Leaflet expects it. So let's go ahead and start adding it to Leaflet. So we're going to say constant. I'm going to say map equals, and I'm going to say new l.map. Because we still have this placeholder from the previous episode, this map ID with this full width, full height map. We want to pass in that ID again. Just 1 second. So we want to pass that in. We want to pass in some other information as well. So we want to say, well, where is our map going to be centered on? We want to say what tiles are we going to be used. This is all part of the configuration behind Leaflet. So for example, the center, let's go ahead and use the same center that we used in the previous example. So 37 and -121. You'll notice that there's some similarities between how we do each of them, whether that be Leaflet or with the here JavaScript SDK. But you have to remember that they're two different kind of products. So they won't be exactly the same. We have center. So now we have the zoom. Let's go ahead and specify a 10. We're just going to match what we had. This is where we get into using the actual map tiles. So we need to specify the layers. And our layers are going to be L dot tile layers, layer singular. We need to provide tiles, which is that constant variable that we had just created on line 11. And then optionally, we could pass in variables, which we are going to do. But before we do that, we have to make some adjustments to the URL itself, as per what Leaflet expects. So Leaflet actually, it uses variables for each one of these. And these are reserved variables. So Z for zoom, X should be longitude, and Y should be latitude here. Then we can specify the size. I want a high definition map, so I'm going to use 512. But these three variables are what matters, and this is what's going to be populated by Leaflet itself. So that way we can pan and zoom and do all of that good stuff when it comes to our map. We also want to add 2 more variables, because if we look at our API here on the previous page, it is expecting an app ID and an app code. So we do have to make some modifications. So the easiest way, I think, is to actually just say app ID equals. Is that still visible on the screen, Peter?
It's going off.
It's going off the screen?
Yeah, if you want to drag the side panel in just a little bit.
Side panel?
The edge of your window, yeah.
Like out?
No. To the left, yeah.
Like that.
Keep going. Okay.
All right, perfect. All right, so we have app ID. We can actually set another variable here. Let's call it app ID. We're also going to have app code. This is going to be app code. It doesn't really matter what you call the variable name as long as you're consistent in the next step. But in the next step, remember how I said you could add optional variables here? We can actually say something like, this is where we define them. So app ID, this is where consistency matters. And then we can say app code. And these will reference the 2 variables that we had just created up here. They are not reserved for Leaflet. But we need to fill them. It's not going to work correctly, as you saw when I brought up the previous episode's map example. It won't render correctly. So what I want to do is I want to add my app ID and app code, so that way it works correctly. And this is in my developer portal as part of one of my projects. I save it. Now, in theory, this should work. If I wanted to load the screen right now, all this rest of the code is commented out. This should show a map on the screen, and it should look pretty similar to what we had seen previously as far as our example. And this is still episode 1. So I'll actually just exit out of that and open up a new Finder window here. And it's not rendering, so let's take a look. See if we can spot any errors. And I encourage anyone who's paying attention in the live stream here, if they've spotted something that I've done incorrectly, no value provided for variable app ID. So let's take a look.
I thought you did.
Yeah, so maybe I made a mistake somewhere. I did. So this, it should have been inside the parenthesis here. There we go. Like that.
Oh, as part of that main. Okay. Yep.
Yes. So that should work now. I'll refresh. It looks like it did. So it's more or less what we've seen previously, right? But this time it's not using the HERE JavaScript SDK. Does that make sense, Peter?
That makes sense.
Awesome.
It still looks like so it's still styled the same as a HERE map, right?
Yeah, because we're getting our tiles. So it's coming from here.
Oh.
So I mean, this map is composed of X number of tiles, and it's being rendered so that way it could be interacted with Leaflet.
Okay, that makes sense.
That sound good so far?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Palermo's so string concatenation is also a nice way to break up a long string.
Yeah, I mean we could. If you don't want to work with this nasty string right here, yeah, you could break it up and it'd look more attractive. I'll take that as feedback.
Can you collapse that left panel maybe, or is that
possibly? You want me to like shrink it?
Oh, there you go. That's a little better.
A little better.
I don't know.
Well, I am zoomed in heavily in comparison to what I normally work with, so that way it renders fine on the stream. So the text generally isn't this big when I'm working with it.
Yeah.
So now that we have a map, everything that we do going forward is going to use this leaflet map. So for example, if we wanted to add a marker, because that was the next thing that we did, right? After we rendered the map in the previous example, we added something that looked like this, marker 1. And it's very, very similar to what we're going to do in Leaflet. So for example, if I wanted to, I could say constant marker 1 equals new L dot marker. And I would provide it a latitude and a longitude. Again, it's similar in the structure, but in this time, instead of saying LNG for longitude, it's going to be lon, LON. So I'll say lat 37. I'll say lon negative 121. And when I want to display it on the map, all I have to do is say marker 1 dot add, lowercase, add 2, and I would say map. If I saved it, it should show up on the map as a marker. So it showed up here.
There you go.
So it looks a little different. It just uses Leaflet's marker system. You can always add your own custom marker images as well.
Okay.
So you have options here. So far, so good. So let's go ahead and add 3 more. We're just going to try to replicate what we had in the previous example. Did I have 3? I did have 3. So marker 2, marker 3, we have 0.2 and 0.002. Again, I'm not familiar with the actual positions of these latitude and longitude coordinates, but in the next episode, episode 3, we're going to resolve that issue.
Well, you're just gonna memorize all locations for latitude?
I wish. We're actually going to be using the geocoder, so we can provide a actual address and have it converted into a latitude and longitude, which makes life significantly easier when it comes to working with maps. Yeah. So we have our 3 markers. I have marker 2, add 2, and marker 3, add 2.
Can you add those all in as one command as an
array? Kind of like we did somewhere in the previous example, like add objects.
Am I jumping ahead here? Are you gonna?
No, you know what? I couldn't figure it out. There might be a way to do this with Leaflet somewhere in the documentation. I didn't see it offhand. Maybe somebody who's maybe more familiar with it in the chat might know. But as far as I know, this is the way it goes. Like I said, there's a lot of similarities between the two, but they're definitely not going to be the same.
Okay.
So I saved it. I can go back in. Now I have three very attractive markers, right?
That looks so good. I'm really proud of you, Nick.
Awesome.
Great looking map.
All right, so we have those. What else do we add here? We added a polyline. We also added a polygon and a circle. So let's start with what it would take to build a circle on one of those markers. And it's going to be very similar again. I'm going to say constant circle equals new L.circle. I'm going to provide it a position. So let's go ahead and say lat is 37 and lon is negative 121. Also going to provide it a radius. So I'm going to say radius. I'm going to say, let's say 4,000 again. And if I wanted to, instead of having to retype all of the latitudes and longitudes a second time, I can just say marker 1 dot get lat longe. It's like that.
Wow. So it just adds
that'll
it in right there.
That'll get the coordinates for that particular marker 1. So if I wanted to, I could go and and it didn't add it. So let's look at our logs again. It happens. Oh, Peter, do you have any wild guess on why it's not showing?
You didn't add it?
Yeah, I didn't add it.
You made it. You didn't add it.
Yep. All right. Glad you're still paying attention, Peter.
Barely.
Circle dot add to map. So let's go ahead and refresh. All right, so it's there. So it's around this particular marker.
Perfect.
Let me get a drink of my water here.
All right. Is there any questions so far in chat for what we're working on? It's very similar to episode 1, but it's just different enough to be a little confusing.
Yeah, I mean, the point is just to show that you have options, right?
Yep.
All right, so I'll proceed then if there's no questions as of now. It's we might run into questions as we adventure a little further. But now that we have a circle, maybe we want to add a polyline. So we want to connect the dots, right? So it's not going to be in the same sense that we're working with line strings again. We can actually do a polyline, and we can add the points to that polyline directly in it. So for example, I could say constant polyline equals new L.polyline. See the trend here, Peter?
I see it.
So in this case,
I get it. It's all coming together for me now.
Perfect. I love sense. It. In this example, this is where we actually pass in each point that we want to connect with a line. And again, the easiest approach, in my opinion, would be just to say marker 1.get lat long, marker 2.get lat long, and let's say marker 3. So we have three points in our line, right? In our line system.
And that can also be as many as you want, right?
It could. It's an array.
Okay.
It could be 2. I think you have to have at least 2, otherwise your line's not going to connect anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously. No, but we could also style it in the same kind of sense. So in this case, we added a style to our polyline. We can add a similar kind of sense here. So for example, if I want it to be green with a line width of 5, it's a different property. But what we're saying is we're saying color green again, and we can say the weight this time is 5. So that would be the color and the line thickness. So if I saved it,
you got to add it.
Oh, you caught me. All right. Good job. Good job. So polyline add to map.
Don't you want a backseat driver like this when you're just coding normally? Just somebody just watching, waiting to tell you messed up?
Yeah, because I mean, half the time I could spend an hour trying to find a semicolon I missed. You could be the guy that eliminates that issue for me.
You only get 1 hour every 2 weeks from me.
Oh, got it. All right. So we have a line now. This is more or less what we saw previously, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I wouldn't consider it any more difficult than the previous example, or any more easy.
It's pretty simple. Can you break it out the same way that you did with like with the
yeah, so like clean it up a bit?
Yeah. Just to make it a little easier, a little more readable.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, there you go.
Should have done this to start with.
Well, that's okay.
All right, save it. Oops. All right, the editor indented it for me, so I'll leave it at that, unless anyone objects.
So if you wanted to add a hex value, do you just use with the?
Yeah, I mean, do you have a hex value off the top of your head?
Hey, I can give you an aqua,
like that?
a nice aqua color.
All right, what is it?
Do 48.
48.
DAD.
DAD. 0?
Yeah, try that.
Do you really remember that off the top of your head like that?
Yeah, right off my head. I'm a designer. I have to have all of our colors memorized by hex value.
Wow, impressive.
Yep.
Impressive. But yeah, no, it worked. So I
Nice
mean,
looking
we have a better looking line. All right, so we have a line, we have a circle, we have some markers. Now what we want to do is we probably want to add a polygon, right, Peter?
Let's close that off. Make it a full shape.
Yeah. So it's going to be the same concept again. There's no tricks here. But let's say, for example, we want to say constant polygon equals new L.polygon. Break it up again. This time I'll say marker 1 dot get lat launch. Marker 2 dot get lat launch. and then marker3.getLat launch. All right, so we have the lines in the polygon. Man, I hear a dog
Doggies.
again, right? Wonder where that dog is.
It's not here. It's not in the office.
Yeah, right. So I'll add another color. You got any more colors up your sleeve?
Let me see off the top of my head. Let's do a nice purple. Nice deep purple. Let's do a 673.
7-3.
A 9-3.
9-3. Got it. We'll also add another weight to it. Make it 5. There's probably a way to do a fill color as well. It might just be fill color. We can try it in a second. I'm not gonna get scammed again by Peter. I'm gonna actually say polygon.add2. Say map. Save it. I'm just gonna comment out this one for now, so that way maybe we don't have any conflicts. Although I think it should just rest on top. I should try leaving that in.
How does layering work? Is that a z-index thing or?
Yeah, I think it's a z-index thing. So I think it's just the order that they appear.
Okay.
So this is a nice purple.
Wow.
It's got a nice purple fill to it.
So the fill, that looks like it's a transparency based off of the.
I think so. Color. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, I'm not, don't know exactly what Leaflet's doing behind the scenes, but it's possible it's just looking at the line color and adding an opacity to it.
It looks the same because the circle is doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, chances are it's the same color, but with opacity maybe 70% or something, right? Which looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. Babsd says fill is transparent of line color. Babsd, do you know what percentage transparency? It looks like a 40. Looks like a 40% to me.
Oh, 40. All right, not a 70, huh?
70 is pretty dark. He doesn't know.
Works for me.
We stumped him.
Got it. So one question that we got in a previous episode, and I kind of regret not doing it at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, we missed it.
Yeah. So
My bad.
people asked, well, what if you wanted to calculate the distance between the 2 points? And we did that. We calculated the distance between 2 points, but it was in meters, which is useful. But then, a lot of people wanted it in miles, right, Peter?
Yep.
So
yes.
I did some looking, and I didn't see a function for it in either Leaflet or here as far as the JavaScript library goes. But there's actually just a very simple division that will calculate from meters to miles, and we could actually do that. And we'll calculate the distance in LeafletJS first, and then convert it, because that too is also in meters.
I mean, everything probably should just be in meters.
It's more universal, right?
More universal, but
it's all right. We'll accommodate. So let's go ahead and calculate the distance. And it's very similar again. I'm going to say constant. I'm going to say distance equals. I'm going to say I want the distance from marker 1. So I'm going to say marker1.getLatLaunch.distance 2. And this is where I define where I want to find the distance to. So in this case, I might want to say marker2.getLatLaunch. So then I'll just print that out. I'll actually show an alert here. I'm going to say distance, and this will be in meters. So I'll refresh it. Is that visible, Peter? It's like 22,000 meters.
Barely. I mean, you can see it said something.
Yeah. So let me, I could actually have it go to the log instead. So I'll go back into the code here. So the actual, to convert it to miles, and I actually had to look this up online because I didn't know the conversion off the top of my head. But to convert it into miles, any guesses, Peter?
What? Just divide?
Yeah. But do you know the value?
Number is? I have no idea. I don't know.
It's 1609.344. That's the conversion to miles.
I only know hex values.
Yeah. So oddly enough, even though this looks like a huge span of distance, it's only 13 miles. So it's probably because there's no roadways that you have to follow. It's just a straight distance. No routing between highways and back roads.
One straight drone flight.
Yeah. And I don't know if any drone goes 13 miles or any drone that you can buy commercially for general public, right?
I don't think so.
I'm not a drone expert.
That's a little far.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can see it at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, we accomplished basically the same thing though. So I mean, if I could remove all of these comments, figure out how many lines of code. We have about 50 lines of code here to get all of that action on the map.
Nice.
So it really wasn't difficult. At least I don't think it was difficult. And you spotted a lot of my errors.
Yeah, I get it. So if we how does writing like text onto the map, how does that work? Can you add like labels to markers? Can you add
Yeah, so I mean on their homepage right here there was an example with a popover.
Oh.
I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. But
Nic.
it's similar to what we have in the HERE JavaScript SDK when it comes to info bubbles. So it's similar concept.
Okay. What other type of so we've got circles, we got polylines, we have polygons. Is there any other type of markers that you can add to?
Probably. I mean, I'm looking at this documentation here. If we look at the UI layers, I think there's more advanced layers, or so there's rectangles, other kind of polygons, a lot of different options here as far as the Leaflet documentation goes.
Cool. You can add an SVG.
Yeah, but I mean, so in the next video, I mean, we're gonna be going over the geocoder API to convert addresses to coordinates, but in theory, if you wanted to, you could use our API to geocode addresses and plot them on either the Leaflet map or the HERE map. So I mean, it's going to use our HERE JavaScript SDK or REST API, depending on what you want to use. And then this is strictly just a renderer right here. This is just showing an interactive map and interacting with it.
Nice. That was pretty simple.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time left. If there's any questions in chat from what you just watched, if you want to contribute anything.
I do want to post this up to GitHub though.
Okay.
So I'll remove my credentials. And like I said, so push this up. You can go ahead and do any kind of last minute stuff, Peter, while I push this up.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming out and watching us. This has been episode 2 of Developer Waypoints. For any links or to watch past episodes, you can just look right below the video here. If you're watching this after the broadcast, if you're watching this on YouTube, there should be a link to our Twitch account, which is just twitch.tv/HereDevs. After we conclude this episode, I'll download the VOD and I will upload it to YouTube, and it will be linked below.
What is the VOD?
Video on demand. You can watch it afterwards. I don't know.
I'm
not short. I'll download the video of our broadcast and put it on demand for us. Yes, thank you, Thin Maverick. GG Thin Maverick. So if you actually look below the Twitch panel, there's a suggestion box. So if you have any suggestions for future episodes, for future broadcasts or seasons, go ahead and drop a suggestion in there. I have it right now to require to be approved first before it's posted, but I'll assume that most of you will be posting great stuff to be approved. And then from there, people can vote and thumbs up or thumbs down any suggestions that are displayed in the suggestion box. So if you want to give some input for what you're watching here, you can go ahead and throw it in there. What else? What else to talk about?
I don't know. So the date for the next episode is the 27th.
Yes,
is that correct?
Let's put us back into our. There we go. Yes. So next episode is episode 3 is on the 27th, March 27th. So what's next episode, Nick?
Yeah, so I mentioned it already, the geocoder.
Geocoder.
But I'm also going to be
knew that.
touching on the reverse geocoder as well. So converting coordinates back to addresses or an estimate of their address, as well as using the places API. So adding searching for points of interest, and then potentially displaying them on the map.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, so that's episode 3 of Waypoints, is the 27th of March. That's 2 weeks from today. At the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I was saying standard time, and now it's not standard time anymore. It's daylight, so we're an hour ahead now. Palermo is asking us to toss an item from one to the other. I don't have any items to toss, so...
Oh, yeah, I don't either.
We can try to high five again. Nick, do you want to
Yeah.
try to high five?
Sure.
Yeah, right? Are you going to try it?
Yeah, I'm going to try it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Okay. Exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
That was perfect. So I can link back to developer.here.com in case anybody wants to go back and watch through the broadcast. Go there and sign up to be able to participate. And I'll link the GitHub if you want to go through and download everything to check out what we just did. If there's any more questions, I can answer them. But if not, I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and participating and watching us. We will see you next time on Waypoints. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.